I tried to get him when I was at Sassuolo. There's no doubt that Mario is a player of great quality. Great quality, yes, at times great headache as well. Paolo, what do we think? Is this the beginning of a return to prime time for Mario Balotelli?
I think never say never, but also don't read too much into this just yet. Eusebio Di Francesco was asked a direct question about Mario Balotelli, and he gave a very honest answer, which I think is admirable. I think there's a few things to consider here. First of all, Sassuolo are not Roma, so when he's saying he thought about getting him at Sassuolo, he's talking about a club which has a slightly lower level of what it's aiming for as a club. I think it's also true that he was there for a number of years, during which Balotelli's career went through some peaks and troughs. But he has gone to Nice and scored goals. He is looking for a move back to a slightly bigger environment. And Roma potentially is the sort of place where you could see where he might fit. They were very reliant on Edin Dzeko this season for goals. Now, they do have a direct alternative to Edin Dzeko, who they already signed for a good amount of money last summer, in Patrick Schick, who took a long time to come good this season, struggled with injury, but also just with form and adapting to that environment. And I don't get the impression they're necessarily ready to chuck him out yet. If you don't do that, where does Balotelli fit in this team? You're talking about a team that's played with one real centre-forward, and is going to keep doing that, because Di Francesco speaks very openly about the fact that he thinks the 4-3-3 is the perfect formation. So I think there's a lot of ifs and buts here, but Balotelli's star is clearly on the up right now.
Shaka, if you're a bigger club, is Balotelli worth the risk?
Not yet. I remain.
What more would he have to do?
I still feel another season at Nice. And now, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Balotelli fan. And I think players of that kind of quality don't come along that often. But he's struggled to handle the limelight, albeit he was much younger and, by his own admission, wasn't mature enough to handle some of the pressure that came with playing for the big clubs that he's represented so far. But still, kind of given those headaches, I just want to see another solid year. And as good as his numbers look for Nice, back end of 2 seasons ago, his teammates stopped talking to him and there was speculation that he was out the door. Balotelli comes with a lot of baggage, and I just want to make sure he's fully offloaded that baggage before taking a big money gamble on him again.
I was broadcasting in England when he was a youngster at Manchester City. And he's a huge talent, of course. Looked as if he could be a great player going forward. Slightly cuckoo with the things he would do.
Coming from you.
Or a lot cuckoo. But then you give him time, you say, OK, youngster, give him time. Don't want to be overcritical. As I sit here now, if I was a top club around Europe, I wouldn't have him anywhere near the place.
Really?
Would not have him anywhere near the place.
Why?
Because he's a bad egg. Talent, too much trouble, too much hassle, too much potential falling out with managers, too much potential trouble in the dressing room, and not exactly Messi-esque or Ronaldo-esque return in goals. Now, 5 or 6 years ago, I wouldn't have said that, but I'm sorry, we are 5 or 6 years down the line. He's not a youngster anymore. He's an experienced player, and I wouldn't have him anywhere near the place. Ask Liverpool, who took the gamble.
Paolo, you got a rebuttal here to defend your fellow Italian?
I disagree personally with the specific terming of him as a bad egg. I don't think he's a bad egg, but I do think he's hard to manage. That's where I agree with Craig. And I think the problem with Mario is that whenever you have him places, the story tends to become all about Mario, which is difficult when you're trying to operate a team, when you're trying to make things work for everybody. And I think an example I could give that's just literally just happened is Roberto Mancini is coming in as the Italian national team manager, and he also has opened the door to maybe getting Balotelli involved. He said that I'm going to look at him. And immediately after that press conference, Balotelli has already changed his Instagram page to say Italy striker, and suddenly all the press are picking up on the fact that he's done that. He hasn't played for Italy. He's just sort of been said by the manager that he might call him up. I think that's always the problem with Balotelli. It's always about Balotelli, and I think if you're trying to succeed at the highest level, it's hard to have someone like that unless they really are a Leo Messi or a Cristiano Ronaldo.
Here's the difference, Paolo, on this, is that the major clubs around Europe can go and sign players of any nationality. So they got the choice. The reason Mancini's potentially bringing him back in the fold is because, let's be frank, by Italian standards, they're just not very good at the moment. So they can't afford to be jettisoning all the players. But when you talk about the top clubs around the big European leagues, they can cherry-pick better players and better characters than Mario Balotelli.
Yeah, I don't disagree with your sort of fundamental point there, which is that I don't think he's good enough right now to walk into a club like Roma and expect to be the guy. And I think that's fundamentally the problem for me. I think Mario Balotelli's talent level is easily good enough to be playing for one of those clubs, but what he brings is a need to be the guy, to be the centre of attention, and he's not good enough to justify that at a club like Roma for me. But of course, Di Francesco is a very successful foot manager, and if he does go that way, then he obviously has his own reasons for doing so.